All right, so we are locked in on the NCAA Women's Basketball National Championship game tonight.
Huge game.
Absolutely massive. And specifically, we're talking about the matchup between the #1 seed, the South Carolina Gamecocks, and the #2 seed, the UConn Huskies.
That's right. And for our listeners today, we're going to be pulling from a ton of different pregame analysis articles just to kind of give you all of the information you need.
Yeah, all the storylines.
All the storylines.
To look for the keys to the game.
Keys to the game.
Without, bogging you down with too much information.
Right. We just want to make sure that you have everything that you need going into this game.
Exactly.
To enjoy it and to be able to really understand it on a deeper level.
Absolutely. So first of all, let's just take a look at the historical context of this matchup.
Okay.
It's pretty compelling in itself.
Yeah.
So South Carolina is actually going for back-to-back titles.
That's right.
The last team to do that was UConn back in 2016. And South Carolina, since 2017, they've already won 3 national championships.
Wow.
So this would be their 4th.
Yeah, that's a dynasty.
Yeah, it really is a dynasty.
Yeah.
And on the other side, you have UConn, who is a team that's, well, they're basically synonymous with women's college basketball.
Yes, absolutely. A powerhouse program.
Yeah, they have a record 11 national championships already.
Wow.
But they haven't won since that 2016 four-peat.
Right, so it's been a minute.
Yeah, it has been a minute, and so this would be their 12th national championship.
Right, it'd be a huge win for the program.
Absolutely. And one of the things that makes this even more interesting is that these two teams faced each other in the 2022 national championship game.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and in that game, it was actually in Paige Bucher's hometown of Minneapolis.
Oh, wow, that must have been a big one for her.
Oh, yeah, and South Carolina actually took that game pretty decisively, 64-49.
Oh, wow.
And even looking beyond just that one game in their last 7 matchups, South Carolina has won 5 of them.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid track record there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So obviously it's a huge factor heading into this game.
Huge factor, for sure.
But then you have the regular season matchup from this year,
Okay.
which really, I think, throws a wrench into everything.
Oh, really? How so?
So they played each other on February 16th at South Carolina, and UConn won 87-58.
Wow, that is a big win.
It was a blowout.
It was a blowout.
And so it really kind of throws into question, how is this game going to go?
Right. How do you predict a game like this when you have those 2 results, right?
Exactly.
You have the championship matchup where South Carolina kind of dominated, and then you have this regular season game this year where UConn just completely blew them out of the water.
Yeah, it's a head scratcher for sure.
It is.
But both teams are coming into this game off of really dominant semifinal wins.
That's right. They both looked really good in their last games.
Yeah, they both looked great. So they're playing at a high level.
Yeah, definitely playing at a high level.
So, even though we have these results from the past, it's really anyone's game.
It really is. So let's maybe dive into what makes each of these teams so good.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's start with South Carolina.
Okay.
One of their biggest strengths is their depth and their versatility.
Yeah, and we saw that in their semifinal game, right?
Yes, we did. We did.
I mean, 10 players scored, and they had 35 bench points in that game.
Which is huge. That's a significant amount of scoring coming off the bench.
Absolutely.
It just speaks to the depth of their roster.
Yeah, and it really, it obviously is just, a manifestation of Coach Dawn Staley's philosophy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. She emphasizes playing to their strengths, and their biggest strength is their depth.
Exactly. So she's really, kind of playing the long game here, and she's not afraid to use her bench and get everyone involved.
And that makes them so much harder to guard, right?
Exactly.
Because you can't just focus on 1 or 2 key players.
Right. You can't just say, oh, if we stop this person, then we're going to win the game.
Right.
Because, you might stop that one person, but then someone else is going to step up and get, 15 points.
Absolutely. And that's what makes them so difficult to play against.
And even when their offense maybe, isn't clicking in a certain stretch of the game,
Right.
they have that really strong defensive foundation.
Yes. Their defense is incredibly consistent.
Yeah. Coach Staley actually even referred to their defense as their mainstay.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it.
Yeah. It's really the foundation of their team.
Yeah, and so no matter what's going on offensively, they can always rely on their defense to keep them in games.
Absolutely. And that's so important, especially in a high-pressure environment like the national championship game.
Yeah. Every possession matters.
Exactly. Every possession matters.
And so, having that strong defensive base
Yeah.
is just huge.
Exactly.
And then, like we were saying before, they don't really have that single go-to player.
Right.
And Coach Staley actually views that as an advantage.
Which is interesting, right? Because a lot of coaches would love to have that one superstar player that they can just rely on.
Right, to just, take over the game.
Exactly. But Coach Staley sees the value in having a more balanced attack.
Right, and it really makes them less predictable on offense.
Absolutely, because you don't know where the points are going to come from.
Right, on any given possession, it could be a different player who steps up.
Exactly, and that makes them so difficult to defend.
So that's South Carolina, a team that's built on depth defense and that kind of unpredictable offense.
Right.
So let's switch gears and talk about UConn.
Okay.
Obviously, the biggest story for them is Paige Buchers.
Paige Buchers. She's amazing.
She really is.
Yeah, she's a phenomenal talent.
And she's projected to be the #1 pick in the upcoming WNBA draft.
That's right.
And, the expectations on her are huge.
Yeah, I can only imagine the pressure she must be feeling.
Yeah, but she seems to thrive under pressure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. She's a gamer.
Yeah, she's a big game player. And this is her 4th Final Four appearance, so she has a ton of experience.
Yeah, that's invaluable in a game like this.
Absolutely. And, everyone's expecting her to really be at her best in this game.
Oh, yeah. I think she's going to put on a show.
Yeah, I think so, too.
But it's not just Paige Buchers.
Right.
There are other players who are really stepping up for UConn as well.
Yeah, and that's what's been so impressive about them this tournament.
Yeah, especially considering that they don't have a ton of upperclassmen experience outside of Buchers.
Right.
But we've seen some incredible performances from some of their younger players.
Yeah, like freshman Sarah Strong.
Sarah Strong, she was amazing in the semifinal.
Yeah, 22 points, 8 rebounds.
And she's just a freshman.
I know. It's incredible.
She's got a bright future ahead of her.
Yeah, and then you have Yana Elfie, another freshman.
Yeah, she's been a force in the paint.
6 points, 8 rebounds in the semifinal.
And she's only going to get better.
Yeah, she's scary.
She is.
And then you have sophomore guard KK Arnold.
KK Arnold. She's so quick.
9 points against UCLA.
Yeah, she's a spark plug off the bench.
She really is.
Yeah.
So, despite that lack of experience, they're really getting these huge contributions from these young players.
Yeah, it's really impressive to see.
It is.
And then you can't forget about Caitlin Chen.
Oh, yeah, Caitlin Chen, the 5th-year senior guard.
The transfer from Princeton.
Yeah, this is actually her first Final Four.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but she's had some really big moments for them in this tournament.
Yeah, she brings a lot of experience to the backcourt.
Yeah, she's been a great addition to the team.
Absolutely.
And then, let's talk about their overall offensive strategy.
Okay.
Coach Gino Auriemma, he's a legend, obviously.
One of the best coaches in the history of the game.
Yeah, and he believes that their fast pace and their consistent scoring can be really demoralizing for opponents.
I could see that.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, when you're constantly under pressure offensively and you can't get stops, it can be really deflating.
Yeah, it just wears you down.
Yeah. And he even said that they surprised UCLA with their speed in the semifinal.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So they're playing at a really high level right now, and their offense is clicking.
Yeah, they're definitely a team that nobody wants to face right now.
Absolutely.
So we have these two really talented teams.
Yes.
With contrasting styles.
Right.
South Carolina with their depth and their defense.
Right.
And UConn with their star power and their fast-paced offense.
Yeah, and so I guess the big question is,
Yeah.
which style is going to prevail?
Right. Will South Carolina's depth and defense be enough to slow down UConn's offense?
Right. Will Paige Buchers be able to take over the game?
Will UConn's younger players be able to handle the pressure of the big stage?
Yeah, these are all huge questions heading into this matchup.
Yeah, and how will South Carolina adjust after losing to UConn earlier this season by so much?
Right, they got blown out in that game.
Yeah. Coach Staley must have some adjustments up her sleeve.
I'm sure she does. But Coach Auriemma even said that, they're not going to be able to catch South Carolina by surprise this time.
Right.
There. So it's going to be a really interesting chess match between those two coaches.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And one of the biggest keys to the game is going to be turnovers.
Yeah, absolutely.
South Carolina needs to protect the ball.
Right. They can't afford to give UConn extra possessions.
Exactly. Because UConn is so good in transition.
Yeah, they could score in bunches.
Yeah. And you saw what happened to UCLA when they turned the ball over too much?
Yeah, they got blown out.
They got blown out.
So South Carolina really needs to value each possession.
Absolutely.
And they also need to avoid becoming too one-dimensional on offense.
Right. They can't just rely on one player to carry the load.
Yeah, they need to get everyone involved.
Exactly. They need to use their depth to their advantage.
So just to kind of recap here, we have South Carolina, the reigning national champions.
That's right.
They're looking to repeat.
Back-to-back title.
They're built on depth and defense.
Yeah.
And then you have UConn The perennial powerhouse.
led by Paige Buchers.
One of the best players in the country.
And a really talented supporting cast.
Yeah, with a fast-paced offense that can be really tough to stop.
It's going to be an incredible matchup.
It really is.
So for you, the listener, given all of this information, that dominant UConn win in the regular season, the emergence of those younger players for UConn, and South Carolina's championship pedigree and their defensive prowess, what do you think is going to be the deciding factor in this game?
What's going to make the difference?
What's going to be the key to victory?
I can't wait to find out.
Me neither. It's going to be a great game.
It's going to be a classic.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
All right, that's it for the deep dive.
We'll see you next time.
See ya.